All right, welcome to the Express Technical Committee meeting for November the 2nd. Here right now is Jonathan, Rand, and myself, Douglas. So we have 4 topics currently queued to start off with, which is discuss the Express Generator default view engine, documentation, a question about the documentation of rec.next, discussion about a PR that is implementing tracing to an Express app, and also a PR to add events to a router, and then whatever else that we feel like. But that's the current starting agenda here. So we'll just dive right into the first one, which has had a lot of discussion on in the main issue, and I think we touched on it last meeting as well, is the Express Generate default view engine. So the reason I put it back on the agenda for this time was just to make a mention of it, only because some of the stuff that was discussed last time slightly, I guess, changed or really just got settled. So we had it open for comments and stuff, and pretty much the comments all settled on to we'll change the default to not have a default, effectively making it very similar to the CSS option, which by default it's just plain CSS. So to me that would mean by default it would just be a plain HTML file plopped in the public folder. And I know that that has been a feature request in the past, to have like plain HTML as an option. So apparently it would probably just be the default option. What has kind of changed a little bit was, since we made that decision, I kind of realized once I was really looking into it, is that because Jade there was never an option to specify Jade. It was just the default if you didn't specify anything else, and you couldn't just say, oh, by the way, I do want Jade. It was actually kind of annoying, probably at least with all the actives. So like I realized that once someone pointed out that, like, for example, Microsoft's code program or whatever, in their little tutorial they talk about installing the Express Generator and running it to run an app. And the Express.js.com website itself. But then I figured that probably there's a lot of that to coordinate, blah, blah, blah. And so what we kind of settled on, and what was released was essentially that we added a bunch of new view engines, one of those being Pug, and that we would essentially still settled on that we were going to default to nothing. But in the meantime, this first release would essentially add things like Jade as being able to actually say, yeah, I want Jade for whatever reason, for people who want to do it. And then it adds a warning at the top of the command output when you don't specify anything, telling you to go specify lang equals Jade or use something else, because the default will change. And then I'm going to at least try to ping some various things, to go tell them to go, add a -- view equals something, so they can do equals Jade, or they can go ahead and do equals Pug, or whatever they feel like, if they feel like something. Otherwise, with the next release, it's going to be defaulting to nothing, so a plain HTML file. So that's just kind of like I just wanted to give kind of like the overview of what's happened there since we talked about it last time. And I assume that no one really has any additional comments, do they?
Nope. Sounds good.
Cool. All right, so I guess we'll move on to the next topic we have here, which is documentation of rec.next. So Yapa had added this to the docket. He specifically asked, do we want to document rec.next? So it's of course so I wanted to at least shed my opinions on it, is that ideally we'd probably, document whatever should be documented. Rec.next probably falls under that category. We probably should document it. Even if we don't like it, I mean, as long as it exists, especially because it's not underscore prefixed or anything. I mean, and we use it, and I know that in issues, it's been mentioned for people to use. I've mentioned it before with like certain types of like view engine overriding. So I know it's out there. So, and it's not great. So, but we certainly no reason not to document it. We could probably, if we do document it, like probably add like a, don't use this or something, like, because I know that a long time ago when Express 4 first came out, we kind of talked about it a little bit, and we wanted to remove it. We just couldn't currently with the way the current like view engine is implemented, but potentially at some point we could get it removed. But until then, I think probably just documenting it, and even like putting a note in the documentation about potentially even our feelings about using it, seems fine to me.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go ahead and open an issue in the docs repo to to add that doc, and then get started on that. I don't know anything about it yet, so I'll have to.
Yeah, I'll try to put some notes maybe in there. What I need to do too is I probably need to see if there's any tests that are actually testing it. And if not, we should probably add some tests, because so really, like, even if we want to remove it, right, the best thing is to do is, even if we like have some tests or docs or something, then at least we can acknowledge that we removed it, because it's always sucks, if you remove something silently, especially if it wasn't underscore prefixed and people, things break. I mean, it is what it is sometimes, but still, like, it's nice when we can say, like, yeah, when someone goes and complains, we're like, yes, we did remove that on purpose. We knowingly did, not just like, oh, I guess it got removed in some refactor or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, and just, of course, it happened to align with us wanting to remove it. So we'll just say, yeah, sure, it's removed. It's annoying to the person, because even if they really wanted to try, they didn't, there wouldn't have been a change log record saying like, yeah, it was removed, or other things. But yeah, so I mean, that's all my early thoughts on that. I don't know if you had any, Randa, I know you don't really know too much about it, but just thoughts on documenting just things that are weird / not really liked, but it still does exist, and what your thoughts on like just documenting those type of things are.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I agree. It should be documented, even if it's something that we don't necessarily recommend people use. And the reason is someone may encounter it in some code that someone else wrote, or potentially a long time ago or whatever. And if it's not documented, then they just sort of have to sort of dig around in Google or whatever and figure it out. So it's better for us to sort of create the official information based on what which is or what other people know within the community, who know the real story, as opposed to just sort of hanging people out to dry. But yeah, so, and then certainly if there's problems with it, we should put a prominent caveat and say, hey, we don't recommend using this, or whatever the case may be. But I think not documenting it just sort of is not helpful in general. If it is in fact still implemented, then it should have some kind of documentation. So that's my thought.
Good points. And one thing I thought about while you were saying that too is that I was thinking about your comment. You said, and we don't want people to use that. And I realized, like, well, if we don't have it documented, how do they know we don't even want them to use it, right? They might just think, oh, it's just not documented on accident or whatever.
Right.
I mean, accidents happen all the time.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Yep.
Yep. So I see you even made a placeholder issue, so we'll remember to go take care of that.
Yep.
All right. So I know Yappa still isn't joined yet, but I know you had pinged on this issue anyways. Rand, which is the tracing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Someone someone just asked me about that. Some random person just sort of direct messaged me and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And that's the I don't. That's literally my only connection to it. So
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Direct messaged you on like Gitter or something.
It was a person at IBM who I actually don't even know. So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's literally all I can say.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just curious, was all.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like that there was some reason why
Yeah.
it just popped in there all of a sudden. So yeah. The issue. So like, especially over the summer, like it was crazy busy. In fact, just recently, last like about week or so, I'm getting like back into trying to like knock all kinds of crazy stuff out. So I've like been trying to like tear through a lot of my backlog and stuff, and I'm trying to like do it in like a sane way, because everybody, literally all day long everybody said, new issue here, new issue there, no PR there, ping on this one. It's like, if you just do as people ask, like then the people who don't say anything get forgotten about, which kind of sucks. So I've been trying to like just plow through all this stuff. So I didn't actually notice that got like a whole bunch of refactoring done, which is awesome. So I just had a couple questions on there. Went ahead and spent some time today because I know we were talking about it there. So like the whole thing about tracing, like the actual issue, and I think that he even links back to the original issue, is like, I think tracing seems good. So especially because like, right now, as a little bit discussed in the issue, there's like the debug module, which kind of sucks because it doesn't even associate things with a request. So I know that this tracing one was essentially really just like an initial stab at it. I don't know how I haven't played with it, so I don't know how I feel. It's really awesome if, especially if people jump in and like actually try it. That's always what I find is kind of hard, is like, just because it looks like sometimes people will like say, oh yeah, me too on the issue. And then like you go publish it. And then of course then they find problems with it once they actually try to use it, because they didn't want to use it until it was actually published,
right.
or even try it.
Yeah.
So it's hard. So I try to spin a little bit, but yeah, otherwise, I mean, I think it's pretty basic, but I think it's pretty much mostly there. It just adds a, like, I don't really have too much thoughts on the API, so I don't know if anybody else does, but essentially it adds a res.trace method that takes like a bunch of different argument types. So basically, it either takes a single string, a bare arguments of strings, or and that's it. It looks like. So you can give it one or many strings as arguments, and those are essentially event names. And then anything you call app.instrument with a function, it's basically like a listener, and it will get called anytime there's a trace event or whatever on there, kind of a thing. And it gets called, I think, the rec and res and date and time as a date object, and a couple other things get sent along with it. And it does go up the parent apps. So if you have a sub app, it'll call it on the parent. I haven't looked too much into that because I'd be interested to see like if you can tell which app it happened on. So you can say like, was it actually on me or did it come from a sub app? I was going to look at that later, but yeah, API is pretty basic, but seems okay-ish to me. It's actually very similar to the param API. So where you call like app.param or whatever, and like say for all the users execute this function, and it'll go and it'll chain through those, but it's kind of similar where you just set up some functions to execute.
Yeah. So it just occurred to me that once it is merged, then we should obviously document it as well.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that. I think some other I don't know if it was the Express repo or somewhere else. I think it was the Express repo and some other pull requests semi-recently, where, because I realized like one thing that's, you know, kind of different is, you know, because of our main docs are on our website repo.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really in the README here, right? So no one can make a pull request that adds docs with everything else, you know, and press too much. But I was actually thinking about that semi-recently. So it's nice if someone, oh yeah, so it was an Express repo. It was for a newish pull request, options for engines, to kind of like at least have them like explain it enough, you know, combined with a good explanation plus like what the code does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we could also, I mean, obviously we could ask them to make a pull request too to add the documentation to the website, though. It'd just be, you know, whether we want to do that as like a prereq to merging it into the main repo, or we say, well, we'll merge it in the main repo and then you go make the pull request over there, or we'll make it. I don't know. That I haven't really thought about. So any thoughts that you have on kind of like how we should do that would be cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the best approach would be. I mean, yeah, I mean, ideally the doc would get updated, you know, as soon as the PR lands in, in the Express repo, but there's no way to really guarantee that. So I guess I would just say, you know, just have another issue, and you know, you know, have an issue in the docs repo to say, you know, add this documentation, and then you know, make a note, or maybe I don't know. Sometimes people use the checklist, you know, feature in GitHub issues, where you can sort of have a checklist and, you know, you know, something like, you know, add the feature, write the tests, write the you know, whatever like that, and you can check them off, and then have a corresponding issue in, you know, for the docs at least. I mean, that's one way to do it. It's not really very sophisticated, but I don't know that there's a better way.
Right. I mean, that's a good idea. We could use like an issue template, the GitHub issue templates, and we can put the checklist of the things, because also like, so one person who makes the pull request, they don't have to necessarily always be the person who writes the docs, right? So like,
That's right.
We could always like, one of us or someone else could go write the docs, and like any of us can edit, you know, the thing, and we can just check the box too, and whatever for them, or whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about it, because like, you know, one thing I've been trying to do with a lot of the repos is to at least try to have docs when it gets merged, whether or not I ended up writing them for the person or they wrote them, just because, you know how easy it is. Like, you know, one thing, a lot of developers, not all developers or anything, but just seems to be like, just something is like docs aren't super fun. So for a lot of people, so like, yeah, so like it can get forgotten, and then, you know, kind of like, when do we do it and stuff, and especially because we do have it. I've seen, it's funny, I've seen a few times. I think it was on Koa recently. They're like, oh, the Express web docs are a lot better. You know, it's really just that, you know, and from you know that like, you know, that was one of the things like that Strong Loop did, was they had like Yappa/U like write a ton of it. A bunch of the basic API docs did exist already, but went and polished it up like crazy. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, it was, you know, what TJ had was a great starting point, but it was, you know, from my perspective, it was definitely sort of typical docs written by an engineer, and it was, you know, everything was in a big long, you know, basically the API docs. So yeah, you know, we just kind of added a little bit better organization and made it more, you know, logical. And anyway, we don't even have to get off, but yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and add an issue for this as well. And yeah, there's, I don't, you know, I haven't looked at this feature very closely at all, so I haven't, you know, but anything that, you know, if you know, obviously you started, you know, looking at the code more recently. And so if you have any thoughts, feel free to add them in that issue I just added in the in the website repo, or whatever, any other way you want to provide information that I can use, or you can, or feel free to just, add the docs, or, it's usually the easiest way, for someone like you can just say, oh, here's the technical information. And then I can sort of factor it into the doc site in, the way that makes sense. And you don't have to, worry about that, or, waste your time on doing that kind of stuff. And I can wordsmith it, et cetera, and deal with all the presentation of it and so forth. So,
right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that actually kind of like, plays in the whole rec.next, kind of documentation for stuff, because a lot of times, like if we don't document it at the time, like when will it get documented? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then of course the incentive to actually document it goes way down. Because I always find that like, it's like, oh, well, we can merge it after there are docs. Usually then at least kicks off some incentive to say, well, let me just throw together some kind of docs.
Yeah. I think it's good to have like a minimal, like, a bar to say, yeah, if there's just some minimal amount of docs to, you can use that to say, don't merge it until there's at least something.
Right. Because like you said, we can always wordsmith it, pump it up. But it's a lot easier if we have like at least some kind of starting place, like some kind of written explanation besides just reading the code. So
yeah.
Cool.
And so I've got that issue, and I have to sort of say in advance, I've been busy with a lot of other stuff, and so there's been gradually the number of issues in the docs repo have been sort of creeping up. So I know hopefully I'll be able to spend some time soon to knock off some of these issues. So.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's no real problem. That's what I always say, like, since it's pretty much all just, essentially volunteering. So
yeah,
I certainly don't mind. I'm sure you've seen me operate through here. I mean, I try to do stuff, but at the same time, it's like, sometimes like, give me a break. I'm just not like, I'm just doing this at least because I think it's cool. I kind of like just want to do it or whatever.
Yeah, no, I get it. And it's the same with me. And it's like, I mean, I'm, even though I'm doing it, sort of under the auspices of IBM, it's not, I mean, I have a lot of other stuff that I have to do as well. So, but for me, it's just like, okay, now I feel a sense of ownership, or of, pride, in the sense of like, hey, I put quite a bit of effort into these docs, so I'm going to keep them good and make them better. So
right.
It's more just like that. It's like, oh, I don't want the docs to just sort of gradually decay, or whatever. So that's, anyway.
Yep. And that's exactly why I was talking about that. So I'll probably make a pull request to like the main repo too, about potentially like a thought on like a PR template, or issue template or whatever. So that way, because part of that is kind of like just being at least like, having just at least information for how people can go about that. I know we have the contributing guide. I don't think it talks about docs in there, so we should I'll probably look at that and see if there's like make like a PR to like add any language there that talks about it.
Yeah.
So that way, at least people who, really, especially really care, like can even know what to do, right? So I mean, it's not like if people don't know what to do, I mean, you can't really blame them for not doing it. So, and Yapa just joined, by the way, apparently.
Hey, Yapa.
Hey.
Yep. Hi, guys.
Cool. So we were just talking about the tracing one.
All right.
So nothing really to talk about there. We're just talking a little bit about it, and we were actually just about to move to essentially your pull request.
Oh, okay.
Router events. So I did make I went and I tried to, like, before we even had the meeting, because you mentioned them, I just went to go at least you know, kind of like a kick to go kind of look at them. So I made a couple comments there. I mean, otherwise, the main thoughts I have on it per se is just like we talked about a little bit, you know, the events on the router are cool. My thoughts are, one, like, should we do any kind of like, because I was just thinking about like how I would like take some of the apps I have and like actually use this feature to like do what, you know, one of this was supposed to help solve in userland a couple problems, which I know you linked to. And that's why I was wondering, like, should we or should we not like do like kind of like a DOM type of event, like bubbling, so that way if you just added like a handle start on a router, would it also get the events from the essentially children routers or not, or what we should do there? I don't have a really specific opinion. I just had just thought about it, and I didn't know if that was necessarily a good or bad thing. So I haven't actually really tried to fully solve like one of those issues with it. So I didn't know if it would be better or worse for it. The only other thought I had in general I had on it was the oh, there was something else. Blah blah blah. Oh no, that was really it.
Okay.
It was just if we should bubble or not, and then oh yeah, that was the other one. And then if we do bubble, like, what should we say the interaction is going to be with other, you know, people's router modules / older versions of this very module, you know, that don't understand it.
Right.
Just we could just say don't care. That's perfectly fine. It's not saying we would have to do anything, just that we said, you know, hey, we did know about this and we made this decision to say don't care. So that's my kind of thoughts on it. Go ahead.
Right now, in the current implementation, the children can listen to their own events, and one second. Okay, children can listen to their own events, and individually, the parents can listen to events from their children as well.
Oh, they can? I don't think I saw that in the current one that's pushed, but okay. I didn't look super close at it, so
yeah, when you do, let's say, router.event on layer, it doesn't get the particular layer, but you know, you can go through, you can eventually reach that particular layer using the layer which ultimately triggered it.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you would hear the events on the children routers. Or
yeah,
no?
the children, we can listen for events on the children router or the child app. And then if you do a top level app.router.on layer, eventually you can reach to the particular layers that were emitted.
Gotcha. Cool. So we might want to add like a test for that then, I guess.
Yes, yes. Or, yeah, or or maybe I explain in detail.
Yeah,
And
no, it's no problem.
Yeah, with some examples.
But yeah, otherwise, I mean, that's my only real thoughts on it. So otherwise, I mean, basically seems fine. I mean, technically, we could argue about the specific names of the event or whatever.
Yes, yes. Yep.
I haven't thought about it too much, so I mean, they seem generally fine. I know no one else has mentioned the specific event names. So I'm not sure if that just means people haven't really put much eyes on it, or
could be that. Yeah.
Or what? Maybe I'll mention like, hey guys, what do you think about the event names, just to see if anybody actually has thoughts on it or not. So
yeah. Even I was thinking about those names, what could be the name of those events, and finally I went with the names I got from the internal implementation.
Right.
So sorry for my naive question, but is this the same router that's used by Express? I mean,
so it's a copy of the Express 4 router. Had a couple deprecated things removed, but it's essentially it is the Express 5 router essentially.
Oh, the Express 5 router. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So these changes probably wouldn't, like, we could, if we add it to the router 1, we could essentially backport it into Express 4 if we wanted to. We could certainly have that discussion if it lands. Otherwise, we could just let it fall into Express 5 by itself. Either way works. I don't know. I mean, it's basically backwards compatible. So I guess I don't see why we couldn't backport to Express 4 if we wanted to. And that's why I said, like, if we wanted to, right? Because like typically that's the best way to go about it. Is really awesome. If we land it in the router 1x and then cherry pick it. I did that for like a couple changes a while back when we split it off, was that landed the fix or whatever in router 1x and then just cherry picked it over to Express 4. So no reason why we couldn't put it in Express 4 either. So, but yes, it is essentially the Express router that we're talking about.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I guess then, well, at a minimum, then I'd like to ask that this be added to the Pillar.js router README. In other words, the event should be documented when it, as part of this. I mean, I assume there's no reason not to. So maybe.
Yep. Yes, exactly. So I usually have these labels for like needs tests, needs docs, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I haven't put it specifically on this one just yet because I had decided to put the ideas label on it, mainly because usually, especially if it's being a bunch of stuff hammered out about it, I don't want to necessarily say, go write docs that might just keep changing anyways.
Sure. Yeah.
But if we do feel like it's probably close to what we want it to be, then we probably might as well add some docs because, yeah, I mean, ultimately, yeah, we'd want to have docs in that repo's README when it's merged into that repo with all the rest of the docs that are on it.
Yeah, exactly. And then it'll make the job once
right.
Whenever it gets pulled into Express, then it'll make it a lot easier to add that to the Express docs.
Exactly, because then it's, even if it's not exactly what you need, it's pretty much already kind of written there.
Yeah,
just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's like the raw material that we can use to. So I'll just I'll go ahead and I'll just make a brief comment on the PR and just say, please add some docs to the README or something like that.
Yeah, no problem. Sounds good.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah. So any other? I mean, that was pretty much the exhausting of the 4 initial agenda items. I didn't know if anybody else wanted to mention anything else. Feel free to take the floor.
Yeah, I can't think of anything at the moment. I think, let's see. We got it. I guess I'll mention one just really minor thing. So I noticed Yapa added a link to the TC meetings on the website. So if you go to the website and go to the resources menu, it's like the first item, and but it links out directly to the YouTube channel, which is great. I guess my feeling is I think it should maybe not have its own menu item, but be put in one of the existing pages. I mean, I think it's great to have that link there to these, to the recordings of these meetings, but it's sort of like, it's a little bit, I don't know. I would more or less put it in community and just add a section there saying that,
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at that too, just to see if there's anywhere else. So yeah, because I see under the community, there is the section about the technical committee.
Yeah.
I know there's also, because I was also thinking about, so there's also, I know there's somewhere in here too, contributing to Express is what I was looking for too. Yeah. So like that also has a section on the technical committee.
Yeah.
So we could probably clean those up somehow.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe I could pull out this section from the contributing page and put it on the community page. And then, I don't know.
Yeah, or if we want to mention the technical committee one or the other, we could just basically mention that it exists and probably just link to whichever page will host all of the information on technical committee. So like the only real difference I see between community and contributing is that contributing lists the members and community does not list the members.
Yeah,
otherwise
true.
That's the only difference. So
yeah,
it seems like a good, yeah, I was just trying to think. I mean, community seems like a good place to put it, but then contributing also seems like a good place-ish. But then the more I think about it, it seems like maybe like contributing, I guess, could just be mentioning it, pointing it to community, and community seems like of the two, what might be the better like actual home for it, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, so yeah, what I'll do, is just maybe leave a short, like one sentence in the contributing page and say, the technical something about the technical committee and then link to the other page and then put the list of members and maybe a little bit more about it on the community page and include the link to the YouTube channel there, if that sounds okay.
Yeah. So, and I've been trying to I was actually just recently, I went to go through, because we have all these meetings recorded, and I was actually going to go through and like try to write up some essentially summaries, / meeting notes for each one. So that way people have it as like a document instead of like watching like an hour-long video.
Oh, yeah.
Because, as lovely as it is to watch an hour-long video or really listen to it as like a podcast of some people chat,
Yeah.
Yes. It's nice to have that, or at least say, here's the topics, here's a link to the time spot where it started to be talked about, because that's what I like doing. I like to do that a lot. So that's I've been trying to like go through the videos and kind of like go through them and like get that together at some point. And at some point we'll probably just, one day it will be like just something we do during the video is like type it up. I thought about that too, but then it's like, I don't want to have typing noise, the video as I like try to type out something with these scissor keys or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I don't have anything else. That pretty much covers it for me this week.
Cool. Now I don't know if I asked before. Anybody is? Yeah, I did ask before about the Austin Node.js Interactive. I think I asked about it last time because I think you said you were going around, and
Yep.
of course Yapa is not going, which is mostly understandable.
A little bit farther away for him.
It's a long distance.
Yep. So, but yeah, I'll be there and doing whatever. I don't know.
Oh, cool. Well,
when is it? It's sometime in December, I believe.
It's like the first weekend in December.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, December.
Or not weekend. Sorry, the first week. Yeah, sorry about that. It's not the weekend.
Yeah, it's really like the week is half November, half December. So I think the actual days are I forget exactly which days they were specifically, but it's basically like 29, 31, and 2.
Yeah.
I think the actual thing is 29 and 30.
Okay.
Yep. November 29th through the 2nd. That's exactly right. Yeah. And yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about documentation and sort of, share some of the things I've learned from working on this project and also from working on Loopback. So that'll be fun for me. And I think they record the talks and, eventually post them up somewhere. So.
Yep. Yeah, they did that for the Amsterdam one and the other previous years that they did the interactive. Yeah, mine was just like I just did like a little keynote and talked about this stuff, like about how that, because a lot of people just don't know, like, hey, we have this TC now, and like here's some info about it, and like, here's all the stuff we're doing, and like, we made this governance doc and blah 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 blah. Node.js incubating project, whatever, and what it kind of even means. Which just really doesn't mean much. It just means that, hey, Michael and James, are available to help us if we need some kind of like guidance or anything from their experience and whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Doug, is your talk available online? I was looking at the Node.js list of videos, but I could not find it.
Yeah, I'll send a link.
All right.
So yeah. I found it a while back. It was in I could never find it either. And apparently they posted it up like right then, like right around the time when it was there. Like I literally couldn't find for the life of me. Like I looked at the Node.js channel, I couldn't figure it out. But then there was some recap email that I got, essentially spam email, like, hey, wasn't that event fun? Here's a blog post we wrote about how fun it was. And in that blog post, there's a link to all the videos. And I'm like, here's the stupid videos.
That's funny. Yeah, we might want to link out to that from the website.
Yeah, I thought about that. So yeah, we could probably do that. What I'll probably do is in the discussions, I'll probably just open an issue with just a link to it, just so that way we can figure out if anything, because especially like, yeah, I've thought about that, about what we should even do too. Like, I don't personally really care to like do talks or anything. So it's not like I'd really be doing a lot of talks. So like, obviously if there was a member of like the Express who like especially love to do talks or whatever, we could have probably like a whole like area that says like, here's this talk about this, doing this thing with Express and this thing with Express. And I know that there are third-party people essentially, not part. And what I mean by that is just they're not actually like Express.js org members, but they do all kinds of talks about how to do X, Y, Z with Express. And of course, I'll probably like kick off an issue just to say like, hey, like, especially if those talks are recorded, like, hey, maybe we should go and like one of us watch it and say like, hey, they're not saying anything that they're not like promoting something that sounds awful. So, and maybe like link to that in our resources section. You know, it's like, hey, you need to learn how to just go write a basic Express app. Here's someone's talk on it or something, you know?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not even saying, and I'm trying to take the easy route on here by not saying we're not going to repost it necessarily. We're just going to link to it. So if it's a video, I think that's probably fair if we just link to the video. I don't think we really have to ask permission to link. Otherwise, that's like killing the web, I guess. So,
yeah, I think I agree with you. That's fine, and it's definitely the easiest thing to do. So
yeah, I'm sure they'd be glad to kind of maybe hear that's linked.
They would be very glad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my thoughts are, if it's only a YouTube video, we can just link to the YouTube video. But if they have a video, but like maybe it's embedded in their blog post, we should probably link to their blog post rather than directly to the video, just in case like they derive some kind of higher pleasure out of people going to their website or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
So, you know, for like self-promotion or whatever, you know, that's why a lot of people do that stuff. So
yeah, makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, I'll open a discussion topic about that, see what everybody thinks. But I was just thinking about that, like, I think last week or something, and I totally forgot about it until we just started saying this stuff. So
yeah, no, I think that'd be good addition.
I think it's kind of like don't we have like a section on the website that's like books or something?
Yeah,
books and blogs.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
Yeah, so like that, we could really kind of like expand that maybe to be like, instead of saying like books and blogs, just like, you know, something. So like it'd be like links to books, blogs, or like these almost like kind of like curated like list of just like watch this video or read this thing or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we could just change it to say books, blogs, and videos, you know, and then just.
Yep.
I mean, and it's, you know, certainly I don't think it's intended to be an exhaustive list of every book ever written on Express or every blog post ever, you know, on Express. It's just, like you said, a curated list, and, you know, ones that obviously we know about, like Yappa's blog is there and so forth.
Yeah, and we could even like probably, because I see there's a disclaimer at the top. So probably, because I know like unless we go read these stupid books, I mean, we can't really say even like if it makes sense or not. So probably we'd probably like almost like have it kind of like split. This be like, here's stuff people say, you know, it's whatever they say, and then maybe like here's like some ones we recommend or something. But I don't know. Of course, then of course you never know. People might say, oh, why aren't you recommending my thing or what? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if people would say that. It's just.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if we want to necessarily.
Yeah, we could just, even if we curate the list, we could still dump it under the same banner of randomness.
Yeah,
that way it doesn't seem like we're picking specific things. That way it seems more fair, and like really probably people can like send us links too. And like I said, really like the only thing I would even be concerned about is not necessarily like if it's absolutely correct or not. Just as long like. The only thing I even care about is just like that it is on topic, so it is talking about Express, and that it doesn't seem like it's some insane weird thing. I don't know. But really, the main concern is just it's on topic. It's about Express and actually using Express, not just, oh, here's this whole big thing. By the way, the word Express. Oh, and then the other big thing. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Because then it's like people aren't really learning about Express. They're just learning about that other thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. It should be on topic and relevant, and, you know, obviously up to date. Like, we wouldn't want to have one that's about like, you know, version 2, or I mean not that there probably is that much out there anymore, but, you know, something like that. Yeah,
in fact, because Express 4 has been out for so long, we're probably mostly going to find Express 4 and maybe Express 3 stuff. But yeah, it will definitely become probably some differentiator when Express 5 is released, especially depending on how different it is. So that, because then that way it's like, hey, well, these are relevant these are more relevant to Express 4 and these are more relevant to Express 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why, major version bump to me is two things. It's one, Semver breaking changes, but also the other part is like, especially for like a project for this, I feel like the value that it has for marketing is large. Someone saying like, yes, I know I can do X or Y or Z in Express 5, rather than being like, well, Express 4.12 it was added, because I literally never meet anybody who really says that. I mean, there's probably some people who say that, but most people, when it's their day job, they don't know the difference. But they do seem to understand the major version number. So like Express 4 versus 3 versus say 5.
Yeah.
And the other numbers. So.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me, on a slightly different topic. Back in June, Yapa added the sort of announcement little banner on the front page of the website saying,
yep,
version 4.14 is released, and with a link to the changelog, which is great. But I just wondered, like, do we want to? Is it time to remove that now, since it's almost been like 6 months?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about that. I actually thought about that when he first put it up on like if we should time box it, but then totally forgot. Because of course, then it's not really an announcement. It's really just saying what the current version is, which
Right.
we could decide. That's what we do. Yeah. I don't know. So I don't really have too much opinions about it. I mean, we could, especially if it's just like, this is, hey, FYI, this is the current version.
Yeah.
Or what? Since we don't really have that anywhere else anyways.
That's true. I mean, we could just change the wording and say the current version of Express is 4.14, and and then link with keep the link to the changelog, but make it less of a like, oh, this is an exciting announcement, which was 6 months ago. I don't know.
I closed this tab on accident. We could just change the wording to say, and I assume you're going to say that, current release.
Yeah, just to say that it's the current release, and as opposed to making it like an announcement, like it's some new thing that because it's not really new anymore.
Yep.
Right. Yep. Up to whatever you especially like you feel is more appropriate. But so those are my thoughts on is that, yeah, like as a saying it's a new, seems like at some point you would stop saying it's a brand new release. But at the same time, like I said, like you could also spin it as saying like, well, this will just be like some area where we say what the most up-to-date one is or whatever. But
yeah,
because June 16th, so quite some time.
Right.
Which is fine. As you see, someone just posted some issue today, and they're still using 4.13.4. So as you see, it does take people quite a long time to upgrade.
Yeah.
Which is normal, especially when like most people I know that use Express a lot, it's just like they use it to get their job kind of done a lot of time. And of course, that usually they never upgrade it for,
very true. Yeah.
Sad, but that's just the way life is.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Yeah, I think I'll just change the wording. So I don't know that we need to have an issue for that, or I mean, I don't know. I guess technically we should, but it's pretty minor thing. So I'll just roll it into whatever changes I do the next time I work on the site.
Cool.
Yep.
Alrighty. Well, I think I'm about done. I think I don't know if we have anything else. I think we're pretty much ready to wrap up.
Yep, I'm all done.
Cool. Yapa, good to see you.
Yeah,
Jonathan,
that's it.
thanks for dropping by. Rand, always good to see you.
Yep, thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you in a couple weeks.
All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.